It's okay to fail. Giannis from the Milwaukee Bucks. He had a press conference after the Bucks. They were the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. They was huge favorites to go to the NBA Finals. And they lost in the first round to the Miami Heat. And after the game, they had a press conference. And they asked him, do you consider this season a failure? And he got upset. And what he said was, well, Michael Jordan won 6 championships. The other seasons he didn't win. Would you consider that a failure? And what he was doing was, there's 4 stages when you're going through failure. One of those stages is denial. And he was going through that stage. And there was a lot of people that was on his side. There was a lot of people that wasn't on his side. And most of them were former athletes, former NBA players. And the truth is, the Milwaukee Bucks failed. They failed. Now, we're in a society where people don't want to consider things failure. That's why we have participation trophies. But what most people fail to realize is failure is a great thing. Failure is a great thing. We learn in failure. You learn through failure. When he said that Michael Jordan failed those other seasons, yes, Michael Jordan failed. And he learned from that failure. When he lost to the Pistons, you know what he did? He got stronger. He knew he had to get stronger to face that team. That failure he went through allowed them to go on those 3-peats. LeBron James failing for his first 9 years or 8 years in Cleveland. It allowed him to become the player he is today. You find me any man or woman that's successful in this world, the only reason they're successful now is because of the failures they had in the past. We all fail. We all fail. But denial is a certain step in that failure, and we have to accept that, we failed. In my life, I grew every single time I sat there and realized that I failed. That gave me the opportunity to grow. I'll give you an example. When my second year cutting hair, I was cutting this little boy hair, and I didn't point his edges. I didn't point it. It was a little more round. I wasn't quite detailed. The woman got on me about it in front of other people. I'm talking in the middle of the shop, she got on me. It hurt me. Not gonna lie to you. I took what she was saying. I didn't go back and forth with her. I took what she was saying. She said basically, I'm not gonna bring him back to this shop, and not gonna let you cut their hair again because the way that you rounded the edges. And I went home and it bothered me. And then you know what I did? It bothered me for hours. I went and I got on YouTube and I started watching other barbers. And I started figuring out what did I do wrong and how can I get better at it. And because of that, to this day, I still remember when that woman told me that it has made me a more precise barber because of me failing. There's nothing wrong with failing. The problem with most people in this world is most people do not want to fail. So you know what happens when you don't want to fail? You don't try. Most people fail in life because they never even attempt to accomplish their goal or dream. There's a goal and a dream that you can accomplish if you were just to try. But you refuse to try. You refuse to try. There's a goal. There's a dream. You know there's something that you want to do with your life. You know there's a certain area, there's a certain business you would like to start. There's a certain career that you would like to go in. But you won't even try. So guess what happens? You fail. You didn't fail because hey, you tried and it didn't work, so you can learn. You failed from not even trying, so you can't even learn. You can't learn because you never even allowed yourself to fail because you're worried about criticism from people that won't even try. The people that don't try are the one that going to criticize you anyway. The people that win are never criticize you for failing. They're going to be the one that going to sit there and say, listen, man, I saw what you did and you can try it this way. I made that mistake also. This is the best way for it to work. Failure is okay. Failure is a lack of success in not meeting an expectation. So if you had a goal or a dream and you didn't accomplish it, you failed. Accept it. You failed. If you had a vision, it didn't work, you failed. If you were married and got a divorce, you failed. If you tried out for a basketball team, you didn't make it, you failed. What do you do now? It's okay to fail. What do you do now? Do you learn from that divorce? Do you learn from that relationship? Do you learn from not making a team? Do you learn from getting fired from the job? Do you learn from it? That's the key. Do you learn? In life, we learn more from our failures than our success. And there's a reason why. Because as long as you're winning, you're not looking at how you can improve. When you're not winning, you're able to detail how to improve. That's why if you ever watch an NBA game, a playoff game, you can see a team lose by 30 and the next game win by 30. Why? Because when they failed, they was able to go back and look at the details to find a way to win. So let it sink in. How can a team win by 30 and then lose by 30 the next game? You know why? Because when they won by 30, they couldn't sit there and learn from that win. The same way, you can learn somehow, but you can't learn the same way you do when you lose by 30. When you lose by 30, you can see clearly what you didn't do right and bounce back. That's why a lot of times you can see a casual fan. You can see, like, you see it in playoffs, in basketball, football all the time. In a regular season, you can see a team lose by 2 touchdowns in the regular season. You like, oh, in the playoffs, they're going to lose because they got beat by 2 touchdowns. Then they play in the playoff, and they'll beat their team by 7. And you're like, that was a shocking upset. They learned from the failure. You can do the same thing in your life if you stop holding yourself down. Stop kicking yourself when you make a mistake. Stop doing that. Anyone that you see that's great in life has failed at some point in time, I promise you. I apologize, everyone's failed at something at some point in time. It's just the greats learn from the failure. When will you decide to learn from the failure? Failure makes you stronger. Failure builds character, and failure humbles you. That's why when you can see someone win quick, fast, they're young, what usually happens? They get arrogant, they get cocky, right? They feel invincible. Then you know what happens? Failure comes. When failure comes, guess what it does? It humbles them. That's why you can see a lot of people that were super wealthy in their early 20s. They were super wealthy. Then you know what usually happens? They lose the money. They get criticized. And then what happens, that person has the opportunity to humble themselves, learn, grow, and develop. That's why when you usually see a person in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, you see more maturity. But when they're in their 20s, you see a lot of immaturity because they hadn't really seen failure. They hadn't. Like, I give you another example. Think of Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather, a boxer that went undefeated in his career. And most people say, well, he didn't have failure. He won every last one of his fights. Go back to before he became a pro. He lost in the Olympics. He was, if I'm not mistaken, with bronze. He didn't win. He didn't win. He lost. You don't think he still held on to that loss throughout his career? That loss humbled him. One thing I've noticed about Mayweather, he's never in his entire career took an opponent for granted. He never did. You never saw him go into a fight overconfident. Because I heard him say something in one time he was doing a speech, and he said, "Well, the reason why most fighters lose to me is because I have a plan B. And you're going to have a plan B to beat me." He said most of these fighters only have a plan A. That lets you know that he's learned from the failure. He has a plan B. He's not too arrogant and cocky. For him to say most fights he's fought, he never really won that fight with a plan A. That's what he said. He said most of his fights, he had to go to plan B. Because of the failure that he went through in the past, he learned. In my life, there's a lot of things I went through and I lost. So a lot of people can see the good that comes from me, but they can't see how no matter what I go through in life, I can absorb it because I went through so much in my teens and early 20s. I went through a lot of failures, a lot of times where things didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. And I had to endure and endure and endure and endure and endure. That's what separates winners from the losers. The winners can absorb the losses. Failure is a good thing. Failure is not a bad thing. You cannot achieve any amount of success without failure. You cannot achieve any amount of success without failure. I promise you, anyone that has the success has the failure. And they know how to adapt and to grow and to evolve from that situation. Muhammad Ali is so respected and admired in the world, right? For one reason, how he was able to come back from a loss. How he was able to come back from a loss. That's what made him great. For him to be suspended like 2 years, 2 or 3 years in boxing, come back and become heavyweight champion of the world. Lose the title. Come back and become heavyweight champion of the world. Those losses were failures. If it was one thing I wish everyone can get from this message, it's to accept failure. Don't be scared of failure. Too many people are scared of failure. They're scared of it. So they won't even much try. They would rather not try than to fail because they're so worried about shame. They're so worried about the guilt. And it's sad. It's sad. And when I got to that point to understand that failure is okay, that's when I started to understand nothing can stop me. Nothing on this planet can stop me because if I fail, I'm going to come back. It took years to learn that. If I fail, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back better than ever. You can't stop me. No one can stop you once you get to the point to understand that guess what? Failure is a part of growth. Stop being scared of failure. Try. If you never did it in your life, I don't care. Try it. Learn from it. Develop the skill that you need. You have it in you. God gave everyone a gift. Everyone a gift. The problem is you so scared of failure, so you can't even much apply your gift. The gift is in you. Apply it. I'm a barber and I cut hair. And in my chair, I speak to so many people. And I push in them. You got it inside of you. Go after your goals. Go after your dreams. Go after your visions. Because most people never got that. Most people have never been told that failure is okay. So they go through their entire life scared to fail, scared to try. Never be afraid to fail. My name is Sidney Combs. And I'm a young entrepreneur from Shreveport, Louisiana with $1 and a dream. Please try.